Hello, welcome to One Africa Mission with your brother Dobia Anzansi. Please, if you are new here, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, One Africa Mission. Excuse me. We are missionaries, and our mission is our sole mission is for the unification of Africa. Our forefathers saw the need for unity, the strength in unity. That was the reason why they fought tirelessly to see the unification of Africa. They couldn't complete the mission. Today, we, the new generation of Africans, we are more than ready to complete this mission of a united Africa. So please bring your energy, bring your knowledge. Let us all work together as young Africans, as the new generation of Africans. Let us all work together to see this unification of Africa. United, we stand. Divided, we fall. Our forefathers saw this. So we have to do everything we can within our power to see this unification of Africa. So today, please, with that much I said, we're going to South Africa once again, and then there's a video about these European South Africans, because that's how I'm gonna call them, European South Africans. They prefer to be called white, but for my traveling, I've never seen somebody who looks like this. I've never seen somebody like that. And even the people who call them the so-called white, if they see somebody, a human being looking like this, I'm sure they will run. They will run for their lives. I have never seen somebody look like this. And I know, me and you know, that this is what white collar look like. So I don't know why they decide to call themselves white. But we all know the reason. There's history behind the reason they came out with the to call themselves white. It all started in Haiti, another African country. Haiti. It started in Haiti after the Haitian Revolution, because if you know, there was white slaves, European slaves rather, European slaves, African slaves, Irish. They identify themselves as Irish, Scottish. There were Scottish slaves, Irish slaves, Polish slaves, all manner of slaves, and African slaves as well. So these slaves from different parts of Africa and Europe as well decided to join hands together and fight the system that was oppressing all of them, that put all of them in the plantations. Because a European slave and a Scottish slave or an Irish slave, male slave, was trading with the same price as an African woman slave, because they feel that the strength of an African, the strength of an African woman was the same thing, was the same strength as a European man, male. So if an African woman was to be bought for, let's say, 10 pounds, a European male was also to be bought for 10 pounds. But the African male was more higher. Price was more higher. So they were trading all of us together. But these slaves in the plantations in Haiti saw the need for them to come together and fight the system that was oppressing them. And after they fought and defeated all the major European powers in Haiti, led by I forgot the name, led by a powerful West African who was taken into slavery. He led them, and according to them, they claimed that he was using voodoo and all that. But he led them. They fought and defeated all these people. They defeated all the French, all of them. And after that, they came back to Europe. The leaders in those plantations, they now came back to Europe and decide that they must divide them based on color. So if you are coming from Europe, you wouldn't identify yourself anymore as Scottish, as English, as Irish, as French. They will now put all of them into one category, and which is white. And then now we, the Africans, were now called blacks. And for that matter, no matter how you are in the plantation suffering, you are still white. And for that matter, you still have to support them against the Africans, because the Africans were the ones who always led the revolutions, the revolts were always coming from the Africans. So in order to divide them, they came out with this idea of somebody is white, somebody is yellow, somebody is pink, somebody is black. But as a matter of fact, the European never identified themselves as white until the late 17th century. They always identified themselves as Scottish, Dutch, English, Irish, French, Italian. That's how they always identify themselves. So we would identify them as their ancestors used to. We wouldn't continue to be living in that delusional world.
History of America is the history of rich white men telling not rich white people that their enemies are black and brown. It starts in the colonies of what would become the United States. Let's remember, during the colonial period, mid-1600s, there was no such thing as white people. I know some people who are now called white find that shocking, right? Because they think whiteness is real. Right? But whiteness was created. Europeans didn't call themselves white. We didn't call ourselves white. We weren't all members of one big happy family. Are you kidding? Have you studied the history of Europe? The history of Europe was about killing each other. That's what we did in Europe. We just killed each other. Before we figured out there were other people to kill, we just killed each other. Right? I mean, that was the history of Europe. The English hated the Irish, right? Northern Italians didn't even think that Southern Italians were Italians. The Germans hated everybody, and everybody hated their ass right back, right? There was no team called white, no race called white, but all of a sudden, in the middle of the 1600s, there was. Why? Why was it suddenly necessary to create this thing called the white race? Well, because rich people can count, that's why. And so rich folks looked around, the ones that owned all the land, you know, in the colonies, the colonial elite looked around and they realized something, that they were heavily outnumbered by African enslaved folks, by European indentured servants who were just one level above a slave, or other Europeans who weren't technically indentured servants, but they were still peasants, didn't have any money, didn't have any land, and they could do the math. They added it up and they were like, damn, we got to figure out a way to split these folks apart from one another or they're going to rise up and take our stuff, right? Because after a while, these black folks who were enslaved Africans and these quote-unquote white folks who were poor Europeans are going to figure out they're all getting played by these rich people, right? So ultimately, the rich figure out they got to come up with some way to get somebody in that group on their team. The easiest thing is to get the poor Europeans, right? Because at least they look like you. They sort of share some of the customs and the culture. So they all of a sudden create this thing called whiteness, and they say, now you're part of the club. Now we're going to let you testify in court.
Of calling people white when they don't look like this. So let's go and watch this so-called white people in South Africa. What they are saying on this video. Please, let's watch it and come back to analyze it.
Everyone here is nostalgic for the apartheid regime, and they proudly wear the symbol of the old South Africa.
That's also the vierkleur, but with the orange band at the bottom, that means that we're in a struggle. We're in a struggle for our language. We're in a struggle for our life.
Are you afraid to be in South Africa?
I'm not afraid of anything. I'm ready.
Ready for?
For whatever comes.
These people believe that a civil war is on the brink of breaking out between the blacks and the whites. Protected by armed men, Andre Beitenbach is the leader of this movement. His aim is to create an independent state where no black people are allowed.
But I can tell you that the white people in this country, they do not do it. If the train is late, we do not put the train to fire. And if the buses are late, we don't put the buses on fire. And if we are unsatisfied with the services delivered, we don't start throwing stones and burning tires and those kind of things. That's one of the main differences between us and the black people in South Africa. The way they behave. And it's not us that have to change our attitude. They have to change their behavior. If they want to be reckoned as civilized people, then they should act like civilized people.
You're not civilized.
Well, they must demonstrate that they are civilized, then we will believe that they are civilized.
It's an openly racist rhetoric. For Andre Beitenbach, The thought of everyone living together is impossible, and he's not content with simply speaking about his views during meetings like this. Along with other Afrikaners, he has already built the state he's dreamed of. An hour and a half north of Johannesburg, at the end of this road, is a border post. But we're still in South Africa. To get through his checkpoint, you must fit strict criteria.
Morning.
Where are you going to?
Danny the Bear. So everybody has to give the name.
Welcome to Kleinfontein, an enclave stretching over 800 hectares, surrounded by barbed wire.
Is it not interesting? Watching this video, is it not interesting? Look at the mind, the kind of mindset these people have. What they are talking about having their independence in South Africa. They're talking about being like, somebody should educate me. How does somebody fight for your independence? What are the circumstances that will lead somebody into fighting for your independence? Because you cannot just wake up and say, I'm going to fight for my independence. There must be circumstances, there must be reasons that will lead you into saying enough is enough. I need to fight for my independence. I need to fight for my own self-dignity. Has these people's dignity has been taken away by anybody? Have these people been oppressed by anybody? Because most of the time, it is oppression. People, maybe somebody come to invade you, take away your right as your human right, your human dignity, and be let's say raping your woman, killing your people like the apartheid regime. That was what led to our fathers stood and fight against these oppressors. So if you are talking about fighting for your independence, what has happened to, like, who is oppressing these European South Africans? The boss, who is oppressing them to go to the extent of creating their own city and talking about fighting for their own for their independence? You see the kind of mindset the only thing that is bothering these people is that they cannot live peaceful with other people. Don't get me wrong. Not all European South Africans are like this. They are very decent European South Africans who are in South Africa and they see South Africa as their home. They see their future to be in South Africa, and they are working tirelessly day in and day out to see a progressive South Africa, not only for them, but for the people, for everybody, inclusive in South Africa. There are Europeans in South Africa like that, and there are this small minority who think that for them they cannot live side by side with anybody, because during apartheid, the system they created was a system that they wouldn't share with nobody. For them, their mind is that their mind is that they cannot share with nobody. So for them, it is all about us. We have to be eating whilst you sit somewhere, starve and watch us. But let us all come together and then live in harmony. No, for them, they cannot stand it. That is what they are talking about here. If not, look at the kind of stuff they are saying. They are ready for anything. Who is coming after you? Nobody care about you. Nobody care about you. Nobody is talking about you. But they have the guts to have their own city, and no black man is allowed there. South Africa, the youth of South Africa, this is what we should be this is what should be our priority. Not attacking our own brothers from Kenya. not attacking our own brothers from Senegal, not attacking our own brothers from Somalia, not attacking our own brothers from Nigeria, foreigners. The only time you hear South African youth talking about foreigners is referring it to other African citizens or nationals. But look at what these people are doing. When in America, Tulsa, Oklahoma, when African people, black Americans, grow a city or a town, a settlement, and it become like majority of African people, even though they never say they don't want to see a white person within that particular place, they were just progressive people, successful lawyers, doctors, and they just saw the need to have, like, to make their settlement progressive. What did we see? The government of America, the white supremacy government in America, destroy everything that they built and kill people. But you are in South Africa. Nobody is not disturbing you, but you cannot imagine sharing the same table with a black person, a so-called black person, or with Africans. Yet you are in Africa. So why can't you just pack your bag and move to where your people came from? You are in South Africa, where we fought to end apartheid, and yet you still dreaming of bringing back apartheid, and you are glorifying everything apartheid, and you are even having apartheid flags in Africa. Like what is all this? But you're gonna see our people in South Africa talking about foreigners coming from Zimbabwe. Can Zimbabweans or other African nationals do this in South Africa? They cannot even think like this because they know they are part of you. But look at these people. Look at these people. Look at what they just did. Look at what they just did. Creating their own, thinking of creating their own city. Thinking of creating their own city. How would they do that? Or why should they be allowed to do that? Do the government of South Africa know this? No. Or they do. But they will rather incite the citizen against other African people or other African nationals. This is disgusting. It is so disgusting to see these people talking about they will not even imagine. Just come to think of it. Imagine in Africa, you have a city that no African is allowed, no indigenous African is allowed into the city. Can black people or African people in Britain do the same thing? Can African people in Germany go and settle in one particular location and said we don't want to see any European in that city? So what kind of arrogance do we allow these people? What kind of arrogant behavior is that? We allow them to behave this towards us. For them, they think like in their feeble, myopic mindset, they think that they are still living in the past because most of them, these are all the older generations who were there during the apartheid. So for them, during the apartheid regime, the kind of like barbaric behavior that they had towards other nationals, that is the kind of delusional mindset they still have. They still have this kind of concept that no, we are superior. And for that matter, we cannot share same boss, we cannot share the same car, we cannot share same table with other people. We are the boss. No, those days are long gone. And you must wake up to that reality and train your children to accept other people. If not, pack your stuff and leave. Your people came from Holland. You can still go back there. You still hold to those names. You want to protect your language. Who is protecting your language from who? From the English, or from Zulu, or from Xhosa, or from which language? Everybody is free to have their. It's a free country. Everybody is free to live happily the way you want to. But I don't blame them, as I said. I blame our people because we don't see this. There's this there's this guy in South Africa who always incites South Africans against other Africans in South Africa, and then he will be saying no African country ever helped their forefathers to fight against apartheid. Okay, they never help you. Now people want to bring back apartheid. If you go and fight them, go and fight them. I forgot his name, but I follow him on Facebook. He will always be talking about no African help them fight apartheid. No African help them fight apartheid. It was their fathers who fight against apartheid. So they don't need no foreigner in their country. No foreigner, no Nigeria, no Kenyan, no Ghanaian, no this, no that. Can Ghanaians, can Kenyans, can Somalis came to South Africa, establish their own city, and said they don't want to see an indigenous South African in that land? No, they can't even think like that. Can you, the South Africans, go to Britain? You have a lot of nationals in Britain. Can South African nationals go some part of Britain and settle and say they don't want to see a so-called white British in that settlement? Can that happen? But look at what they are doing to you. Look at what they are doing to you. You don't even think of war. They are talking about war. Why are these people so bloodthirsty? Why are they so bloodthirsty? Well, it's up to you. But as I said, they are very decent South African, European South Africans, very decent ones. And we know them, very decent. And they love South Africa. They are proud to be called South Africans. I've met a lot of them. They are proud to be called South Africans, and they love South Africa, and they are working hard for the good of South Africa. We applaud you. But those criminals, the laws of South Africa have to wake up. The leadership of South Africa have to bring them that ideology that they are trying to instill on generation South African citizens, so-called European South African citizens. It must be cut off before it gets too late. I thank you very much for coming. Until we meet next time, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, One African Mission, and also follow us on Facebook. Thank you very much.